The case against Richard Allen, the alleged Delphi murderer, the trial is getting closer and closer, and Judge Gull, as she does, denies a lot of things, to put it lightly, from the defense. This is a big one, though. She has denied Allen's defense team from introducing the theory at trial of Odinism or any sort of cult related exercises or evidence into the trial as a possible third party defense, limiting the ability of what they're going to argue in court for Richard Allen. Joining me to discuss, Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent, host of the podcast Break the Case with Jennifer Coffindaffer. It's also on YouTube. Get it wherever you download podcasts as well. Jennifer, what does this mean to this whole case now that we're not going to see Odinism brought up in court?
Well, the defense took two punches to the gut. They took a punch last week when she said, all confessions come in, all confessions come in. And then they took a huge punch this week when they said third party culprits, they're all out. So, I mean, at this point, it's, what is there left to defend? Um,
Yeah.
I think, I think it, listen, I don't know whether Richard Allen committed this crime,
Mhm.
but geez, is there information pertaining to other third party culprits that I just believe, from a legal standpoint, from every standpoint, that this should be a jury consideration. If
Yeah.
they didn't have anything, they were just completely throwing mud up against the wall. If I mean, they have over 100-page motion regarding all the intricacies of their theory.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I even buy the theory, but let's take it a step further and look at the individuals she specifically talked about. Ron Logan.
Mhm.
Ron Logan, there's an FBI affidavit that says probable cause that Ron Logan was involved in killing Abby and Libby, that his phone was there. We know Richard Allen's phone wasn't there
Mhm.
after the geofencing. It's a long, involved affidavit. My point is that as a defense attorney, I think I should be able to put that in. This is what these FBI agents all said and what they found in
Yes.
their case. How could you not at least have the jury consider it? Now, the jury can say, no, no, it wasn't him. We think that, look, he's confessed, but put it all out there. I feel like it's sort of hiding the discovery that the jury, who are the fact finders, are supposed to be making. I'm surprised.
It feels like it just continues to be steered in the exact direction that Gull wants it to be, but Gull's not the decider here. Gull's the judge. She's the referee here to make sure everybody plays fair. And it seems she's very slanted towards one team, which, again, this goes back to the argument of he basically has a get a trial free card in this. But it's just going to keep dragging this all out for the families, for the everyone involved, for Richard Allen. Why not try this thing fairly? I mean, it just defies logic at this point of how skewed this trial is going to be when there is a lot of pieces of evidence out here. It's not just, internet rumors and such. There's a lot of beef to these things.
Well, one of the other items that I would use as a defense attorney was Keegan Klein.
Hmm.
Keegan Klein, we know Anthony Schatz had communications uh, uh, the morning or communications just prior to their murder.
Hmm.
We know that. That is unequivocal. And then we also know that there was enough cause and concern that when Keegan Klein said he knew where items of evidence was, they pulled him out of jail. I have always said, because I know people who haven't worked in law enforcement, whenever you get somebody out, it's a big deal.
Hmm.
You have to have it signed up off on at the highest levels. And because you're now taking responsibility for somebody that's supposed to be behind bars, it's very unusual, let me say, Tony.
Hmm.
And so, at least at one point, either law enforcement was completely duped, which maybe they were,
Yeah.
or they thought that there was information that he might have known through that Shots account.
Hmm.
Because I've always said, how in the world? was this just divinely happening?
Hmm.
In other words, they just happened to be off school. They happened to be there, and Richard Allen happened to be there at the exact time they were there so that he could murder them. How did he know that there would be two vulnerable girls there that he could control? And was it only him? You know? Uh, I don't know. The whole case to me is so problematic, and I just feel like the jury needs to see it all.
Yeah, I mean, the way that it's gonna be painted right now, they're really only kind of see it's like, okay, it's like everything's in color to us, they're getting a black and white version of it. And that's what the jury's gonna see. And suddenly they'll walk out of that courtroom afterwards, whatever decision they make, and go, "Oh, holy shit, the world's in HD in color." And like, what I was seeing this fuzzy black and white version of it. No wonder I didn't see most of the case. I mean, it just completely sets him up for, a lot of appeals on this, which I'm sure would be granted, judging by how crooked this whole thing has been. If he were to be granted an appeal on this, which I think would be likely, if we're going to assume he'll be convicted, what's the likelihood that would that go back to Gull at some point? Would it be tried again in the same court with the same judge, or would something like that have to be moved somewhere else? They could get a more impartial trial.
Well, the state Supreme Court has already visited a ruling that was made by Judge Gull, and very rarely do they ever overturn any decisions made that were that important. Which was, she said that the attorneys
Mhm.
had to be removed from the case, and they overturned that. So they, I believe, are following this and watching this very closely. In any realm, whether it's law enforcement or judges or prosecutors, they all know each other.
Mhm.
It's a very small circle. And, they certainly don't like to slap the hands of another judge.
Mhm.
I just have to believe they're going to be watching this very closely. Will it go back to her? I don't know. I mean, of course, we're getting way ahead of
I
ourselves.
know, but you always have to kind of think, 10 miles down the road on this case.
Yeah, this case, and Tony, what's really disappointing, and normally I am not one for cameras in the courtroom. I
Mhm.
don't want cameras in the courtroom. I like how they did Armstrong's case, the woman who
Mhm.
murdered the bicyclist who
Mhm.
was having an affair with her lover. This was in Texas, and they said, listen, we're going to watch opening, we're going to watch closing, we're going to watch the verdict. Other than that, it's behind closed doors. And this hugely publicized case ended up being done in about, I think it was just a couple of weeks, maybe
Mhm.
3 weeks, and no issues, no problems. I understand that that case was very cut and dried compared to something like this. But recall, in Delphi, they've only put 2 weeks, I think, on the calendar for the whole case.
Yeah.
That told me a lot. She's cut it all out, so now they might be able to get it done in 2 weeks because only one side's gonna be able to say anything.
Exactly. There's just no accountability, and it just seems like, yep, this is how we're going to do it. We don't really care what y'all think. This is just the way that we're going to do it here. It's it's a miscarriage of justice even before we get into the trial. Just the way it's all been set up. The blocks of the card, the tower of cards here is set to fall without a doubt, and it's just and it's all preventable. I think that's what's kind of shocking to me. It's like if there's a wrong way to do this case, a wrong way to put this all together, Gall has done pretty much every step of that. I mean, maybe we'll be surprised. Maybe there will be some sort of crazy piece of evidence that will come out here in court and make us all go, "Oh, that's why they've been like this about the case the whole time." I just don't. I doubt it though.
I don't know, Tony. I really think it from the get-go when they arrested him and after he confessed when he was in jail, or not jail, he was in maximum security prison
Yeah.
out 1 hour a day. When he made those confessions, um, I always said they must be amazing. And I think that they just are so convinced that this is their man. And like I said, he might have done it.
Yeah.
We don't know. Because if you just look at the probable cause affidavit, it's so flimsy. and there's so much other evidence out there. The crux must be these admissions. And further, he's made supposedly many more. And I've always said, how in the world, after about 5 years, did they even put their eye on a CVS clerk? How? And I always wondered, did his loose lips sink him early? Did he confess to somebody and that person went to law enforcement and that's how they really got on him? Because something happened.
But
I'm just throwing
yeah,
that out there.
I
We'll
know.
see.
I know, but he's the one
Something
who
happened.
called. He's the one who raised his hand and said, "Hey, I was out there." That to me gets me too. It's like, if you're the one who did this, why would you be he didn't admit to doing anything. He was more like, can I help? Like, I was out there that day. Maybe there's some information. I don't know. If you weren't out, if you had nothing to hide, I don't think, if you have something to hide, I don't think you're raising your hand to go and draw attention to yourself. This whole thing is just nuts. And yeah, I mean, those confessions, there's a lot of them without a doubt. But at the same point, he's literally confessing and then taking a bite of poop. So, it's, I don't know how much you can weigh that as being the sound mind of someone, or more so someone's survival instincts kicking in, saying, I'll tell you, I killed Kennedy too if you want me to, if it gets me out of this hell that you're putting me through.
Well, exactly, and that's such an important point. But that is why Judge Gull is there as a
Yeah.
judge. And I have to tell you personally, my experiences with judges, I just am in awe of them. Most
Mhm.
of the judges I've ever dealt with or been a part of, been involved with, oh my gosh, they are so amazing. I look up to them. But now, since I started advocating and being part of the true crime community, it's probably once a month that, and it just happened, right? This person raped a little kid, and she gave him bail, and he's out running around right now. I've seen decisions made by judges over and over again that are jaw dropping, and specifically with Judge Gold. My whole issue with her has always been, why in the world did you put him in max security without him being convicted?
Yeah.
That is just something I will never get over. And then, secondarily to that, how could you take away his defense attorneys?
Mhm.
It was overturned, but
No.
those were the two
Oh,
red flags that I was like, what is going on here?
yeah. It seems like it's another country we're talking about when we're talking about this case, where it's like, oh, that's just how they do things there. This is not this is America. This is not how we do things here. But apparently, in Judge Gull's jurisdiction, it is. And I would not want to be tried for any crime there, because I don't think it's going to turn out too well for anybody, when they already seem to have the narrative lined up. It's a disturbing one.
Well, and we're not going to be able to watch it, Tony. Back
Exactly.
to that point I was making with cameras. I'm not a big person on cameras, but man, do I want to see this trial.
Yeah.
I tell you, it makes me want to just take off 2 weeks of my life and
Hmm.
world and go there and watch. I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. But boy, for those people who are doing that,
Hmm.
hopefully we get some real facts as to what's happening from the reporting that happens in that courtroom.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. I know we got somebody that's going to be on the ground at the case every day, so it will be very fascinating to see how this happens and how this all plays out in the coming months, if everything stays on track. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.